Today's episode of Voiced is from r/petty revenge and is about a clever user thwarting a pricing error while another shares a heartbreaking family struggle. What shocking twist lies behind these everyday scenarios? Subscribe if you enjoy. I was at Home Depot earlier today, making a quick run for some supplies for my current home renovation. I was picking up cement board and some various materials to trench power to a breakfast counter that will be installed in our kitchen. I had one of the big wallboard carts that I was cruising around with, being careful and cautious of others the whole time. So the trip was a bit frustrating, as there is a lot of stopping and waiting to allow crowds to pass so I can safely maneuver without bumping into anyone or anything. It's not a big deal, and it was to be expected, but I'm only mentioning this part to set the stage that by the end of my 30-minute endeavor, that could have been much quicker had I not needed this cart. I may have been in a different mindset by the time I got to the checkout. So I have all my supplies and just need the cement board now. So I head on over to the wallboard aisle. Funny enough, it's totally chaotic. There's a middle-aged guy, his elderly father, and late 20-something son, and they were loading sheetrock in a way that was taking the whole width of the aisle. So I had to go down another aisle to get around them. I'd usually just bring my cart up against the stack and pull off the amount I need. It's quite quick with multiple hands. Additionally, they had pulled 2 sheets down and let them land on a flatbed cart, which doesn't work. It simply won't fit. They had left that out in the middle of the aisle to get the more appropriate cart, apparently. I carefully move the flatbed off to the side so it's out of the way of the aisle and get to work with loading the cement board. I have a sheet in my hand, and the youngest of that crew decides he needs to get somewhere quick and awkwardly walks really close behind me, making it so I can't maneuver the sheet onto my cart. No big deal. I just hold it awkwardly until he passes, which was just another oddity that further set the stage for me. I finally finish and head over to the pro checkout. I get over there, and there are 2 guys being wrung out with a cart. The employee checking them out appears kind of newish. He's a younger guy that seemed to be struggling with one of their items or something. But I wasn't going to try to haul my cart full of 12 sheets of cement board over to a regular checkout, and it wasn't a big deal. So I wait patiently, and these guys finally go to swipe their card. And this is where things get interesting. The dream team from the wallboard aisle starts walking up with a large cart of drywall they were struggling to work through in the aisle, along with some additional items. The middle-aged guy awkwardly walks in front of me and takes a hold of the cart that was with the guys at checkout, and it all clicks. That cart didn't belong to the 2 guys at checkout. The older guy brings his cart loaded with 12 sheets of sheetrock and passive-aggressively moves diagonally in front of me to cut me off. I'd like to think I'm a nice guy, but I was over it at this point. The middle-aged guy looks me in the eyes and I say, "Man, I like your style. I wasn't aware we can reserve spots in line at the pro checkout. I feel foolish having just stood here for 5 minutes." He shrugs and says, "I was just here, I had to get more things." I shook my head and let it go. The employee starts checking them out and goes through the first cart. He gets to the sheetrock and asks, "How many is that, 6? And the older guy immediately says, "Yes, 6. Here's the thing with sheetrock. It's always bought in bulk 99% of the time, and it's transported in pairs to keep it from easily snapping in transit. If you need to buy one, you have to rip the tear strips off that bind them together, but they are rung up individually." I let the employee get through the rest of the items and hit the total button so they could see what it came out to, then immediately pounced. "Excuse me, sir." They pause and the cashier turns to me. "You're wringing out only 6 sheets of drywall, but there's actually 12 there." The older gentleman snaps at me. "They're sold in pairs." I look at him and respond, "No, sir, you're mistaken. I can show you on the app that they're definitely sold individually, and the cashier can get confirmation of it from his supervisor if needed." The middle-aged guy looks at me again, and I give him a big smile and say, "I'm sure it's an honest mistake, but I'm glad I was here to help fix it." The cashier adjusts his mistake, and the bill goes up about $80. I gave them a smile as they left. Wow, the weight of that situation is heavy, isn't it? After hearing about the length someone goes for their child, it's hard to digest the reality of their emotional struggles when expectations crash against personal choices. It's clear that both love and pain can intertwine in complex ways. Speaking of intertwining experiences, let's delve into another story that also explores the depths of family relationships. But this time, it takes a different turn on that challenges the very essence of personal desires and responsibilities.
My mom gave up everything to raise me, and I'm not going to say I'm ungrateful. She was 15 when I was born, and her parents tried to force her to abort, and went so far as bringing her to a clinic, but she fought the orderlies and actually ended up in a juvenile detention for a chunk of her pregnancy, after which she was disowned by her family. Then, when the birth went badly, she ended up needing a hysterectomy, so I was her only kid, and basically ruined her dreams of having a big family and living the life she had always been told she would have. She worked hard to give me the things that she had growing up. I got the bedroom in our apartment, and she had the couch. She got a job working at a daycare, and with some government assistance and a lot of struggle, she was able to give me the kind of life that she said I was owed by blood. My bedtime stories were always about our family history and some great thing or other that my ancestors did. She says we could trace our family history to the Mayflower, and that made us the original American blood. Her stories would always end with a fantasy about how, when I had kids, everything would be okay again, and we would get to have a real family and live happily ever after. I do not want kids. I don't like kids. I don't want to be pregnant. I don't want to go through all the challenges my mom went through. I never saw her get anything for herself in my whole childhood, unless it was free, like a library book or something. And when I asked about it, she said, "That's what a mother does, and I don't want to be that." She runs her own daycare now, and she's always surrounded by kids anyway. So when I told her my husband and I weren't planning on having any kids when we visited in Easter, I kind of figured she would be an adult about it. I mean, we're all adults now. She's in her 40s. This isn't the teenager who told me those fantasies. And I'm a person. I'm allowed to make my own decisions. She laughed at first, and then suddenly she was just staring at me with this hatred. I'll never forget the look on her face. It was never something I'd seen from her before. And she just asked, what was it all for then? And got up and walked out. We got a call an hour later that she jumped off a bridge and was in the hospital. As soon as she woke up, she started raging and screaming at everyone to let her die, and she was placed under psychiatric hold, where she's been the past month. Every time I visit her, she begs me to let her die, and so I stopped going. I just can't see her like that. She hates me now, and she hates everything, and even though this woman never so much as raised her voice to me, they are saying she has been violent with everyone she comes in contact with, and all she does is ask to die. It's all she says. She wouldn't eat or drink unless they forced her. She tries to hurt herself with everything she gets and actually succeeded in damaging an eye badly. I can't sleep. I can't stop thinking about it. I thought she was happy. I thought she would be glad that I was happy. I have no idea how to cope with this, but I'm not going to have a baby just for her. It wouldn't be fair to me, and it wouldn't be fair to the baby. I just don't know how to stop feeling like I'm the one who did this to her. She did everything for me. She spent every moment from the time she was 15 years old trying to make my life good. She managed to pay for a private high school and have a college fund working in daycare, and I know how insane that is, and the toll it took on her. She's had a heart attack before, and I love her. I really do, but I don't know how to stop hating myself for something that I don't even think I did wrong.
Before I dive into today's posts, please consider subscribing for more engaging discussions. Wow, what a roller coaster of emotions from both posts today. The Home Depot story illustrates the importance of standing up for fairness, even in everyday situations, while the second post reveals a deeply painful family dynamic that many people can relate to on some level. It's heartbreaking to see how one person's choices can drastically affect another's mental health. What do you guys think about the actions taken in each scenario? Let's continue the conversation in the comments below. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Voiced. If you enjoyed daily high-quality stories, please like and subscribe to show your support.